Good afternoon, fourth grade champions. I'm sporting my costume attire this afternoon. Hope you've had a chance to see what your collegiate leaders are wearing today. I am, as you can tell, Chewbacca. So very exciting to participate in Spirit Day. Tomorrow is Tuesday and it's sweatpants day. So excited to see what you'll be wearing. I think I'm going to be wearing my Mickey Mouse sweatpants. We are continuing our reading of Out of My Shell by Jenny Goebel. And I invited our friend to join us. I think you recognize this fairly famous loggerhead turtle. And we are on chapter 5. The caption for chapter 5 is, the loggerhead sea turtle's scientific name is Coretta coretta. That's pretty cool. Coretta coretta. I think I can remember that. How about you? Okay, we're on page 46, chapter 5. Grandpa joined Grandma in the kitchen when we returned. I wandered into the family room and found Mom on the phone and Lainey whispering into her shell. 2 popsicle wrappers lay on the glass coffee table, and Mom had unpacked the Shrinky Dinks paper and the tin of 72 artist quality colored pencils. It appeared they hadn't left the house for the 2nd day in a row. I know, sis, Florida will always feel like home, but, Mom was saying into her cell. Home. Mom's conversation jogged one of Dad's Forrester family fabulous facts in my memory. Loggerheads returned to the exact beach where they were born to lay their eggs. I connected that with what I'd learned at the aquarium, and my heart broke impossibly more. This beach, the one right outside my window, was where the sea turtle had hatched from an egg and dashed for the ocean waves. This beach was familiar to her. It was her beach. It was calling her home. Her babies were supposed to be born here, the way she was. The light from the beachcomber was messing everything up. Mom continued, I'm not sure the courts would even allow that. And uprooting the girls might not be what's best for them. They love it here. But what was she talking about? Mom had said something last time they were on the phone about how living closer to family would make things easier. Was Aunt Michelle trying to convince her to move to Florida for good? My stomach leaped into my throat, but the idea was more than I could process at the moment. What with alarm bells for the sea turtle still blaring inside my head? I said, and Laurie jolted, and Lainey jolted. I crouched down on the floor beside her. Excuse me. It's okay. I just need to go next door quickly. I'll be right back. Don't tell anyone. By anyone, I meant Mom. I especially didn't want to worry or upset her now. If she was toying with the idea of moving to Florida permanently, the last thing I wanted was to make things harder on her. If she thought Lainey and I were more than she could handle on her own, she might actually decide to move us to be closer to her parents and sister. Then I'd hardly ever get to see Dad. I refused to let myself be rattled by something that may never happen, at least not until I had the turtle situation resolved. No one save Lainey noticed me leaving. I looked out and located Mr. Emerson too. He was outside on a ladder cleaning a gutter. The way Aiden had acted the night before weighed on me as I approached his grandfather. Now that I had proof, would Aiden react differently? A part of me was scared to find out. I couldn't wait for Aiden to show up. I had to ask his grandfather now. Mr. Emerson didn't look much like his grandson. He was stout and balding, and while Aiden often seemed out of sync with his own feet and limbs, Mr. Emerson was the type of person who appeared fully in control of every movement he made. Aiden's grandfather didn't notice me. I stood below him a moment, and my nerves almost caused me to abandon my mission. If I didn't do anything, though, if I didn't speak up and I saw the turtle turning away from the beach again, or worse, if she never came back, I'd be crushed. It took far longer than it should have, but I finally mustered the courage to say, Excuse me, please. I thought if I was extra polite, there was a better chance he'd listen. Mr. Emerson glanced down, no doubt recognized me, and said, Aiden's not around today, but I can tell him you stop by next time he's here. I shook my head. I'm not here about Aiden. I'm here about a turtle. Oh, that seemed to pique his curiosity, but not enough for him to climb down from the gutter. A turtle? He asked, leaning over to get a better look at me. It's, all the light from the beachcomber. It's disturbing a turtle. She wants to come ashore to make a nest, but she can't because the light is scaring her off. And lights are bad for baby turtles too. Mr. Emerson cut me off. With an entirely straight face, he said, So you've talked with this turtle, have you? What? No, Mr. Emerson chuckled. I'm sorry. I shouldn't toy with you like that. That did remind me of Aiden, poking fun at me, then apologizing for it. At least it reminded me of the old Aiden, but I wasn't in any mood for jokes. I saw her. I shot back. She crawled into the sand and then turned around. It was the light. I have proof. I retrieved my phone from my pocket, clicked to open the photo of the aquarium display, and held it toward him, even though there was no way he could read the small lettering from his position high on the ladder. Okay, Mr. Emerson said. I believe you. I'm not sure where it all came from. It wasn't like me to be as forward. A tiny part of me was appalled that I'd spoken this way to Aiden's grandfather, of all people. But a much larger part of me felt, I don't know, relief maybe. It felt good to purge a little bit of everything I'd been holding in. So, I hounded, what are you going to do about it? The lights, I mean. Can you turn them off? I waited patiently while Mr. Emerson climbed down from the ladder. Once he'd stepped off the bottom rung, he turned to face me. No, I'm not going to do anything. Nothing? The pride I felt for holding my ground whooshed right out of me. It's not that I don't care about the turtles, he said sadly. Before the landscaping was redone, tree branches blocked any light that might have reached the beach. I've mentioned to Mr. Shaw. Mr. Emerson met my eyes and his brow furrowed. Mr. Shaw is my new boss, you see. Well, I've mentioned to him that we need to replace all the bulbs with turtle-friendly lighting. And? I nudged. And Mr. Shaw doesn't feel it's a high priority. We're still in the red. We're not making money because of all the improvements. Retrofitting the outdoor lighting is expensive. It's on the list, but again, not a priority. Tell that to the turtle, I huffed. Mr. Emerson exhaled heavily. If only Mr. Shaw, he said, then cut himself off. My mind inserted endings to his sentence. If only Mr. Shaw what? Cared? Or here? Or more interested in turtles? Or less greedy? Could Mr. Shaw be the reason Aiden hadn't wanted me to approach his grandfather? It would almost be a relief if that were true. Look, I don't mean to disappoint you, Olivia, Mr. Emerson said. Honest, I don't. And I'm sorry for being condescending before. When you're young, things seem so simple, so black and white. Someday you'll understand that things are more complex. They don't always turn out the way you want them to, but that's life. Mr. Emerson started folding up his ladder. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have more gutters to clean. For as long as I lived, I didn't think I would ever feel differently about helping the turtle. When I snuck to the beach that night, I didn't see the loggerhead, but I found tracks again. Tracks that ended abruptly, not far enough inland. Tracks that stopped right in line with the ray of light coming from the beachcomber. A few summers before, Dad and I found the remains of a small loggerhead on the beach, tangled in seaweed. I was repulsed by the carcass, but at the same time, I couldn't look away. What happened to it? I asked. I assumed Dad had an answer for everything back then, but he shrugged. He said only 1 in 1,000 sea turtle hatchlings make it to adulthood. He said what I'd read at the aquarium. The sea turtles are threatened by many things: birds, boats, predators in the ocean, people. I've always considered turtles invincible with their hard protective shells. Turns out the opposite is true. They're incredibly vulnerable. They face terrible odds, and most of them don't make it. Thinking back on that day, my blood pulsed hot and my heart ached. How could sea turtles ever survive if the people who could help didn't care enough to try? I'm going to stop there, page 52, and tomorrow we'll begin chapter 6. Thank you so much, champions, and have a really good day.